Welcome to Meaningful Mornings. I'm in Washington, D.C. now for our annual youth camp. Today I was going through my notes to try to find out what number of camp this is. I believe this is our 10th year. I'm about to go to our ashram here in Washington, D.C. We have over 90 high school students who have registered for this camp. I'm not aware of a bigger gathering of youth in Chinmay Mission than this camp. This year's theme is embracing discomfort. How many of you wish you were part of this camp? How many of you need this camp on embracing discomfort? So last night when I arrived, the host family and Shankarji, Somanji, myself, we were chatting about how we want to navigate this camp. And so someone had suggested that we should challenge our youth to not wear deodorant one day. And then there was a further follow-up that would be me embracing discomfort, not them embracing discomfort. But we are going to implement that. So I'm going to randomly pick a day and encourage them not to wear deodorant and separate myself more on that day from them. But then a further thought was shared is more than physical discomfort is the need to train in mental discomfort. And someone had shared a really good insight that sometimes our youth, they're uncomfortable asking for help, professional help, spiritual help, and so on. Now, as I think about Meaningful Mornings, this community, this culture, we are training ourselves to know when we need help and to ask for that help openly. This is a practice in surrender. So all of you are already in this embracing discomfort camp. On June 2nd, I had shared insights into verse 0 of chapter 14. The genesis was Brahman, or infinity, when forgotten, feels like Mayapati, or divinity. When forgotten, feels like Maya, or creation. When forgotten, feels like gunas, or creature. This is how much we've forgotten and so fallen that we are individuals only. On July 4th, I shared insights into verse 1. The theme of this chapter is Guna Traya Vibhaga Yoga. It is the science of knowing there are 3 gunas, the implication being, which composition are you made of? 2 similar sentiments in the beginning, but different in the end, are succumbing and accepting. Succumbing is where I accept who I am, but I feel like I can't change. Accepting is, this is who I am, and I can change. This chapter is giving us techniques is giving us details on accepting this is who you are and that you can change in a methodical way. How many of you, by show of hands, feel like you now know more about the gunas than ever before? Awesome. And your hand is up. We have invested around 20 mornings into the gunas. You see how powerful this is when you do this every day. It just becomes natural. In verse 18, I'm reviewing these last few verses because now Shri Krishna, Prince Arjuna, really changed the direction of this chapter. In verse 18, a key word is urdhva. That when one nurtures sattva or quietness, they feel inspired. In verse 19, a key word is param. When one is inspired, they start to know there is more to themselves than how they've been. There's more to life than how they've lived. In verse 20, the key word is atitya. That one feels beyond experiences, equipment, and most of all, ego. All that Shri Krishna is sharing in this chapter and this entire text is for us to atita, let go of the ego, let go of individuality. The word ahang, ego in English means, ego in Sanskrit is ahangara. The etymology of this word is aham karomi. This feeling of doership and doing is what ego is. And so throughout this chapter, Shri Krishna has shared the gunas are a game. The gunas are playing with the gunas. Why do you own this? Why do you feel ownership of this? Prince Arjuna is moved by these 20 verses, which is why he now asks a question in verse 21. And this question is not new. He's asked similar questions in Bhagavad Gita. And so I'm going to provide you a very beautiful visual about this notion of how much of a lie doership is. One of the forms of our mother is Leela Swarupini. She is of the form of Leela, which means someone who's playing. In this visual, our mother is with 1,000 hands. And in each hand, she has a string, and attached to each string is a kite. And these kites keep rising and falling and rising and falling. Sometimes when these kites fall too much, she shifts her hand and then that kite rises. Sometimes when that kite goes too high, what does she do? When that kite forgets that she's holding the string to this kite, what does she do? She pulls that kite down. And sometimes a special kite breaks off of its string and flies away. And what does she do? She claps. She claps in pride that this kite, this individual, is now infinite. Powerful visual. If not, you're that kite that is going too high and will be pulled down soon. What Shri Krishna is sharing in these verses, in this chapter, in this book, is to be. Stop doing, start being. That is coming back to Brahman or infinity. Verse 21. Arjuna uvacha kairlingai strin gunan etan atito bhavati prabho kemachara katam chaitan trin gunan ativartate. Joy. Prince Arjuna is asking. What is lovely about just this beginning part of this verse is how much Bhagavad Gita, how much our culture is filled with daya. Daya in English means grace or compassion, in this case, empathy. That Prince Arjuna is not only allowed to ask questions, but rather is encouraged to ask questions. That this is a dialogue. With dialogue comes clarity. So beautiful. Kaihi means what? Lingaihi means indicators. Trin gunan etan. What are the indicators of these three gunas? But that's already been described by Sri Krishna. So now we go to the second quarter. Atita. What are the indicators of one who's gone past the gunas? Which means past Maya, past Mayapati. How will I know who is being? How will I know Brahman, Bhavati, the experience of such a person? And how does he describe Shri Krishna now? Prabhu. He is calling him, you are not just my master. You are the master of Maya, Gunas, Prabhu, Pati. These are synonymous. I want to read to you a brief insight from Puja Swami Chinmayananda about the importance of dialogue. The Gita is written in a conversational style to remove the tedium unavoidable in the early studies of any philosophy. Yesterday in our workshop, I was sharing with all of the seekers, do you remember when we used to sit in 90-minute discourses? Seems like a long time ago. Now, for anyone who's in such workshops, there's a 30-minute discourse, a 30-minute dynamic, a 30-minute dialogue. This is a way we can personalize what's being shared. And to make it more entertaining, and this conversation between the Lord of perfect knowledge and the mortal of extreme delusion, Vyasa the poet has evidently not forgotten the human element in his philosophical preoccupation. Are you all feeling how fortunate we are to be in such a dialogue? Imagine you just were discoursed upon for all of these verses. Third quarter, Kim Achara. Now, whenever we come across this word achara, what do we think of? Mango pickle, lemon pickle, ginger pickle. Achara is a powerful word. It means habit or conduct. It means lifestyle. And there's a lot of depth to this. If one is living in an integrated way, I describe that as sattva, that means one's lifestyle and vision are integrated. One's karma and guna are aligned. Prince Arjuna knows that I can't know the vision of this being or that being, but if I can identify how their lifestyle is, then that will also show me what their vision is. Trin gunan ativartate, the one who is not conditioned by these conditionings, what is their lifestyle? And so final reflection here. When Prince Arjuna asked a similar question in chapter 2, he was asking from an intellectual perspective. His knowing was intellectual. He's asked the same question in some other chapters that we've explored. This is him internally knowing. Now we're in the final third, really in the final quarter of Bhagavad Gita. Now Prince Arjuna's asking is quite different. It is not intellectual, it is not internal. He wants to intensely know the lifestyle of one who is unconditional. Past IQ, past EQ, he is only focused on SQ. In the next verse, and next verses, Shri Krishna answers. From inspiration to application. Your application yesterday was to write out 14 ways you live in an expensive manner. How many of you tried this? Your list was much longer than 14, yes? The observation of this is, when you live in an expensive way, your propensity to have to work for that expensive way is higher. And we have a tendency then to get busy. We focus on implementation and rather than intention, which is why Pujya Swami Tejo Mayananda has shared, simple living is a catalyst to high thinking. Your application for this morning is for you to draw the visual of Leela Swarupini, our mother with the 1,000 hands holding these 1,000 kites, lifting some up, pulling some down. Draw this visual. That way it's clear to us we are not the ego. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Be joy.